Before we eat, I have one last question. For generations, our families have lived by a code. Tell me the virtues that guide us.
Loyalty to our Lord, control over our emotions, and
You know this.
honor. To fight bravely and uphold the legacy of Clan Sakai.
Those are your father's words.
Ghost of Tsushima is a love letter to Akira Kurosawa samurai films and is a brilliantly executed single-player, open-world action-adventure experience. This is a game about the greater good and what one man is willing to sacrifice in order to achieve it. In 1274, a Mongol fleet led by a man named Khotan Khan, who also happens to be the grandson of Genghis Khan, invades the Japanese island of Tsushima. Samurai warrior Jin Sakai and his uncle, in Jito or Master of Tsushima, Lord Shimura lead the island's samurai in an attempt to repel the invaders. However, the battle ends in disaster, with the samurai killed, Shimura captured, and Jin severely wounded and left for dead. He is then found and revived by Yuna, a thief, who informs him that the island has fallen to the Mongols. Jin then storms Khotan's stronghold at Castle Kaneda in an attempt to rescue Shimura, but is defeated by Khotan in combat and thrown off the castle bridge into the waters below. It is made very apparent early on that this would not be a typical story of a samurai who picks himself back up from the dirt and defeats the invaders with honor or skill, for Jin himself quickly realizes that these Mongolian invaders cannot be defeated with traditional samurai tactics. In fact, throughout the course of the game, Jin realizes that it is the samurai traditions of warfare that lost them the battle in the first place. The Mongols fight with no honor, an idea that repulses Lord Shimura and the samurai alike, and is clear to the players that it's something the samurai were not expecting. Early on, the game sets up a flashback sequence between Lord Shimura and a young Jin that sets in motion the conflicts Jin would face throughout the events of the story, with Shimura teaching Jin the ways of the samurai and how to fight with honor. Early on, it appears that Jin fully embraces the samurai customs, himself believing that the Mongols would never resort to such low tactics as stabbing their enemies in the backs and burning down cities to accomplish their goal of capturing the island. Through their battles on the bridge, Jin realizes that honor and tradition alone cannot defeat Khotan Khan, for Khotan is a cold and relentless man who will stop at nothing short of winning the war and capturing Tsushima Island.
Brother, you are a warrior. I can see that. You trained your whole life for this. And you have won battles that lesser men have called unwinnable, yes? But while you were sharpening your sword, do you know how I prepared for today? I learned. I know your language, your traditions, your beliefs, which villages to tame and which to burn.
It is through the various allies and battles that Jin undertakes that he too realizes he must do whatever it takes to defend Tsushima Island and prevent Khotan Khan from reaching the mainland Japan. And it is through this realization that Jin begins learning guerrilla warfare to overcome the lack of numbers that he has on his side, despite such tactics being dishonorable according to the samurai code. Jin recruits Yuna, her blacksmith brother Taka, merchant Kenji, master archer Sadanobu Ishikawa, female samurai Masako Adachi, and his old friend mercenary Ryuzo and his straw hat Ronin. Each character in the story offers something unique to Jin to add to his arsenal, teaching him various skills that he can carry with him towards his ascension to becoming the Ghost of Tsushima. Jin begins liberating the towns of Tsushima one by one, slowly retaking his homeland back from Mongol control, assisting his allies in the process with their own troubles from the war. Townspeople begin referring to Jin as the Ghost, a resurrected samurai warrior brought back to wreak havoc on the Mongol forces. But Jin has one immediate goal in mind: to retake Castle Kaneda and rescue Lord Shimura from Khotan Khan so that they can turn the tides of battle and recapture Tsushima Island. Little did Jin realize, however, is that freeing Lord Shimura would only add to the conflict that is plaguing the island, as Lord Shimura attempts to reinstill the samurai code into the hearts of the Tsushima warriors, much to their distaste as their own guerrilla tactics were working wonders against the Mongols. Our heroes learn that despite their victory at Castle Kaneda, Khotan Khan has already moved on to capture Castle Shimura, the island's most fortified and resource-plenty stronghold. Jin and Shimura enlist the aid of warrior monks and pirates alike in contacting the Shogun, or Japan's main military branch, to assist them in their plight, but Jin realizes that this would not result in Tsushima's victory. It is at this point in the story it becomes clear to Jin that Tsushima can be saved by abandoning the samurai code and utilizing guerrilla tactics to defeat the Mongols. This is reinforced by his allies standing by him against Lord Shimura and their plot to retake Castle Shimura. The Shogun reinforcements arrive with Lord Shimura at their command and begin their assault. but it's quickly cut short by the Mongols retreating and destroying the bridge the battle was taking place on. This resulted in several samurai casualties once again due to their own ignorance of understanding the enemy, at least in Jin's mind. Jin then opts to resort to his own tactics once again, proposing the idea to poison the drinking supply of the Mongols in Castle Shimura, effectively ending the battle before it even begins. Jin succeeds in his plot, effectively capturing Castle Shimura with no further samurai casualties, but Lord Shimura is furious with Jin and informs him that the shogun would have him captured and executed for severely breaking the samurai code. Shimura then devises a plan for Jin to scapegoat his closest ally Yuna, but Jin fully accepts his persona as the ghost and is ready to take all responsibility for his actions, hoping the samurai would come around and see that his tactics were how Japan would defeat the Mongols. Lord Shimura then has Jin arrested and thrown in prison, awaiting his journey back to Japan, where the shogun would enact justice on him for betraying the samurai order. And then, in an interesting parallel to the beginning of the game, Yuna once again comes to Jin's rescue. She catches wind of Khoton Khan's whereabouts and frees Jin from the samurai prison to tell him they should ride north and finish this invasion once and for all. But before gathering his allies and assaulting Khoton Khan's final stronghold in Port Izumi, Jin leaves a note for Shimura telling him to join them and retake Tsushima once and for all. Shimura accepts Jin's request, assisting him in the assault on Port Izumi and killing Khoton Khan. With Tsushima saved and the Mongol invasion rendered a failure, Jin has only but a moment to celebrate before Shimura informs Jin of the grave reality once again. He was a traitor to his nation, and the shogun consider him a threat to the island's stability and status quo of obedience of the people to their leaders. Jin has gained quite a bit of fame in his ascension to becoming the Ghost of Tsushima, and the people have started questioning the samurai's ability to protect them from outsiders. Because of this, the shogun have ordered Lord Shimura to disband Clan Sakai and put an end to the Ghost of Tsushima, to kill Jin Sakai. And I would like to break the fourth wall as a narrator here and say playing through this section of the game for the first time really hits you with a sense of dread, as this has been the elephant in the room for several hours now, and to finally hear Lord Shimura state that this has been his mission to kill Jin is heartbreaking for the two of them. The story just has excellent writing and timing, what can I say? Jin recalls in these moments how he failed to save his father's life in battle, as he was too young and weak to protect his father when he needed him the most, and how he finally succeeded in saving his uncle and all the people of Tsushima, but it wasn't enough. Now Jin would have to duel his uncle to the death for his crimes against the samurai order.
It's time. Write the last words of Clan Sakai and Clan Shimura.
Reminiscing of what they have both lost, Jin and Shimura reluctantly have their duel with Jin emerging victorious. It is then up to the player to make the final decision of the game, to have Jin honor the samurai code one last time and give Shimura a warrior's death, or to spare his life and fully reject the ways of the samurai. A brilliantly bittersweet decision forced onto the player, with both options representing a lot of symbolism in Jin's journey and the path he carves out for himself and the people of Tsushima. A brilliant ending to a brilliant story. In examining both choices for Jin to make at the conclusion of his duel with Lord Shimura, I myself found it incredibly difficult to determine which path to choose. On one hand, choosing to spare Lord Shimura would truly reject the old traditions of the samurai that resulted in so many unnecessary casualties and could prevent the death of one more closest to Jin. Lord Shimura is a father to Jin, and Jin is a son to Lord Shimura, but Shimura is a proud and stubborn man. If the shogun wished to have Shimura killed for failing to eliminate Jin, then he would accept his fate, as he failed his people in his own eyes. But even if the shogun did not wish for Shimura to be killed, then he would continue to uphold samurai tradition onto the island of Tsushima, as it was made clear throughout the course of the game that Shimura would not falter from the path of the samurai, even if it cost him his life. However, if Jin chooses to give Shimura a warrior's death, he would be showing his uncle that he's still honorable. He simply did what he needed to do for his country. He did what he needed to do for the greater good of his people. In this ending, Jin never wanted to reject the ways of the samurai, but simply recognized the flaws in the philosophy against an enemy that was not honorable. The samurai were a people of honor and tradition, and respected their enemies, always giving them a fair fight. In a way, the samurai would have never survived without Jin, and Jin would have never survived without the samurai. Jin was only able to take the Mongols by surprise time and time again because of their set-in-stone philosophies on warfare. The Mongols never imagined that the samurai would resort to their own tactics to win the war, which is what made Jin so successful in his assaults. The samurai and the ghost needed each other to win the war against the Mongols, yet the samurai code has isolated them once again, and Jin is forced to make an impossible decision. Ghost of Tsushima is a triumphant, rebellious, and bittersweet experience that highlights the dangers of tradition and warfare, as well as the importance of the greater good and what a spark of hope can do for a nation with their backs against the wall. Jin, the ghost, was as important to the people of Tsushima during the war as any number of samurai warriors, for Jin represented the heart and soul of Tsushima Island and the people who inhabit it. The ghost served as a rallying cry for all people of Tsushima to stand together and fight bravely for their homeland, all while truly believing they can win the battle against the Mongols. Need further proof? All we need to do is look at current events in the world to see how important a mythical figure like the Ghost of Tsushima can be in times of war. During the early phases of the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine, there were whispers floating around the news headlines about a certain Ukrainian pilot who shot down over 40 Russian aircrafts and single-handedly regained control of the Ukrainian skies. The name of this pilot? The Ghost of Kiev. An extremely interesting coincidence considering Ghost of Tsushima came out a few years prior to this conflict, and despite the Ghost of Kiev being proven to be a myth, its significance to the Ukrainians to this day is undeniable, with one beautiful sentiment being shared by all Ukrainians. We are all ghosts of Kiev. Slava Ukraini, and thank you so much for watching.